Welcome to the Eat Y'all podcast, where we discuss the struggles and successes of the farmers, food producers, and chefs who are working to get better ingredients into restaurants today and to ensure their availability in the future.
This episode of the Eat Y'all podcast is made possible by the Southern Peanut Growers. Learn more about how peanut butter is made at peanutbutterlovers.com. That's peanutbutterlovers.com. Welcome back to this episode of the Eat Y'all podcast. I'm your host, Andy Chapman, and we are jumping back into the world of peanuts, the leafy legume down in South Georgia. We'll be joined by farmer Donald Chase and chef Michael Marshall for another. This will be a sit down in the dining room of their farmhouse there in kind of on the map. It looks like it's right near Montezuma, which is one of my favorite names of any town in Georgia. But we'll be headed down there. And one of the things that I think you find when you interview many of these farm families is that there's a true family operation to this business. There's almost no solopreneurs that are just doing this type of work all by themselves. And we were in the tractor barn, and Donald points up at the this massive combine, and he says, "Yeah, that's the one my mom drives. That's my mom's combine." And Donald's parents, I think, are in their late 60s, early 70s. But may have been off by a decade. You know, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome to be working with your parents at that stage of life and love what you're doing enough to be out there and do that. And I think you're going to hear a lot in this episode about how much they really care about what they're doing and the quality of what they're trying to produce and taking care of the land. And a lot of these themes that you hear when we're interviewing farmers are kind of, in many ways, they're similar, but they kind of flesh out differently. So I hope you enjoy this episode, Peanut Episode 2, episode number 54 here on the Eat Y'all podcast. We're going to jump right in with Chef Mike Marshall and farmer Donald Chase. Welcome to the Eat Y'all podcast. I'm your host, Andy Chapman, and we are live in color down here in South Georgia. Not, what are we, about 40, 35 minutes from Perry, Georgia?
Yeah, something like that.
And our new friend, Donald Chase, down here at Chase Farms, has hosted us. He's taken us around his farm here. We've got Chef Mike Marshall from up in Atlanta. It's been a fun morning, guys.
Oh, it has been.
Great. I'm looking forward to kind of talking more in depth. And last night, I don't know if you know this, Donald, but Mike and I did a pre-interview on peanuts, and we kind of quizzed him to figure out, basically it's the benchmark test. And now we're going to see if he learned anything. But before we get back into checking on Mike's knowledge, see if he picked up any new information, tell us about your farm and your operation here, kind of your origin story.
Well, my grandfather and father actually moved here from Oklahoma by way of Tennessee because my grandfather wanted to farm where there was water for irrigation. And so we moved here along the banks of the Flint River. So my father was 15, and I've been able to grow up farming here with them. Today we grow corn, peanuts, sweet corn, and we have a poultry operation.
So that's a pretty diverse operation, would you say?
Yes, that is true. But I also think in today's agriculture that there are a lot of different versions of a diverse farming operation. A peanut farmer who only grows peanuts is not really existent. The typical rotation, and it has been the rotation for probably 150 years, is peanuts and cotton. We tend to grow corn here. And so there are a lot of farmers who grow peanuts, cotton, and corn. It just works well that way. And then a lot of farmers have some other type of maybe animal agriculture enterprise that's a part of their operation too. So I don't think I'm all that dissimilar to most farmers around.
So we talked earlier on the farm, well, the chickens help fertilize the peanuts. The peanuts do some work in the ground for the corn.
Yes.
And what does the corn do?
Well, let me clarify that, because we don't use the litter on the peanuts.
Okay.
The peanuts don't require any litter. They don't require really any fertilizer at all, because they are a legume. They produce their own nitrogen. We might put some trace elements. All soils in the Southeast need about 0.5 pound of boron. But our package approach to farming, our poultry provides litter for our corn. Our corn provides obviously a sellable product. It also reduces some of the pests that attack peanuts. So we plant 2 years of corn, and then we plant a year of peanuts. And in those 2 years of corn, while we're using our litter and as fertilizer, as well as some commercial fertilizers too, we're getting our soils. We take soil samples yearly to balance that out. So we get all those nutritional things in the soil in good balance for our peanut crop. An interesting aside to that is that peanuts are utilizers of residual fertility.
You're gonna have to explain that to me.
Okay. They don't necessarily like fertilizer applied to them, but they can glean some of that fertility that's left over from the corn crop. And it's the same thing with cotton as well. So, for instance, the poultry litter has a fair amount of phosphorus in it. So the peanuts can actually glean that phosphorus out. And the poultry litter, because it's a natural fertilizer source that's predominantly wood chips, can last a little longer than most commercial fertilizer. So that works, I think, really well. And I think for us is a good way of helping us to have higher yields.
And you were talking about the yields and sort of the industry standard, and you guys kind of beat that a little bit up here.
Yes, we rely heavily on the work done at University of Georgia in their peanut approach. They provide us good information of what's working, what's not working, what works this year, as well as variety trials to give us some things. So we rely heavily on that. Try to do the best job we can, try to manage everything in the best possible way we do, managing water as well. And then at the end of the day, though, if the Lord doesn't give us some good weather, we still have a challenge. And so, I like to think that we're blessed. And honestly, I believe that's the case for all of us in the agriculture industry. Well, if you choose to believe that you're blessed in what you do, you typically are. So that's how I view things. And, we've been blessed.
Well, I definitely know we have. And I feel like Mike would say the same thing. Part of his story he was sharing last night, which you may have just heard on the previous episode that you listened to, about the pandemic basically sent him out of a job, and he has pivoted, to steal a word from what I'm seeing across the street from us there.
Yep.
He's pivoted and opened up his own private thing, got some other culinary excitement in the works.
Yes.
Mike, I want you to feel free and jump in and ask any questions of Donald as we go through here too, because we want to try to stump him. Anything we can surprise him with. But one of the things that I always notice as we do these interviews and spend time both in kitchens of fantastic chefs and on great farms, there's like this passion for like what you're doing, and also I think for excellence, but in the ingredient like purity level, there's something that farmers really care about, the actual ingredient that's leaving their farm, whether it's in a freezer or whether it's in a grain bin or whatever. They want it to be exceptional. They want it to be something they're proud of. Talk about how you guys kind of manage that and what concern you have for when something leaves here. Is it just, all right, write me the check, or is there a lot of thought going into what did I produce and what is it doing in the world?
Well, I will take that a step further. I mean, I think that's very true, that we very much recognize that we're producers of food. Food is central to survival, but it's also kind of for us something we take pride in, that we are producing healthy, nutritious, sustainable foods, something that we get fired up about. But I also think it goes a step farther. We recognize that we're simply stewards of land. Yeah, we own land. But if we don't take care of that, if we don't try to make something better for the next generations that follow us, then we've probably failed at what we've done. And I think that the focus too nowadays is on how are we managing carbon? Are we doing things that are detrimental? Are we doing things that actually help with our environment that we see today? This may be my personal opinion, but I'm pretty excited. I believe we're doing things that are contributing in a positive manner to our environment. We're trying to manage those things that we have at our disposal, but we're also trying to be conscious of the fact that if I use one less trip across the field, if I make one less trip across the field, that has effects on greenhouse gases. That has effects on fuel burning. If I manage my irrigation in such a way that I use less water, but I'm also using less energy. And I think we think about these things a lot. Now, there is a dollar amount that's attached to those.
Of course.
But if we really are doing our job well, we're thinking about that. That's part of what I believe is sustainability. Can we continue to do this? Are we robbing natural resources, or are we utilizing them to make them last longer?
And I believe there's true sustainability using peanuts, because it truly, from what I've learned today, it comes full circle from seed to process. It produces its own fertilizer using nitrogen pods. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody's taking copious notes out there.
That's awesome.
And also you pick it up and it goes right back to the earth. The hulls can be used for making oils for other cooking sources. I mean, it's just various ways that this one small plant can be used for sustainability.
Well, I got to tell you, we're not new to this. Dr. Carver had this figured out a long time ago. Mm. And I think that's what's so cool about it is here was this scientist that said, the farmers at that time, by planting cotton year after year after year, were depleting their soils. Mm-hmm. What can we do to incorporate peanuts? And so he made it into a edible crop more so than a crop that they fed. They fed mules. They fed the mules the peanuts. And so I think it's really cool that we have that historical record and we're trying to get back there.
Well, and from a culinary perspective, that's like an ingredient that, unlike cheese or wine or something that's been like historically documented for hundreds and hundreds of years, it's really sort of we're still in the early stages of what all the uses and ways and dishes and things that will incorporate a peanut, right? I mean,
I think so.
And I want to know the history of the peanut. Where did the peanut originate from?
The peanut originated from South America. Okay. The native species of peanut, and we actually have gone down and harvested seeds from those native species.
Oh, wow.
It migrated to Africa. It came back to us with the slaves. And to me, quite frankly, I don't think that our European ancestors knew how to survive in the South. I think we would have had a hard time surviving, but they brought it here. They knew that it was good they knew it was good for the soil, because you can find, older species of peanut in Africa. Mm-hmm. The wild thing about peanut is that the wild species are diploid, and the cultivated species are tetraploid. So it's somewhere along the way, something genetic happened to it way back in history. Mm. Yeah, you see my excitement. I
was going to say, Donald really doesn't care about any of this. You can see he's just like sort of a hobby he spends just a minute on.
I don't think that's when I see my friends' Facebook post, so we're farmers and we got friends who are farmers. And when we see their posts, and one of the cool things we're doing on the Peanut Commission this time of year is we are allowing people to submit their harvest photos for our calendar for next year.
Oh, nice.
And we had a ton of them last year, and they were beautiful. They were meaningful. A lot of people put their kids there. That's the kind of thing that it lets me know that there is a pride in what we do, not in a bad way, but in a sense that we want to do what's best.
Well, and kind of talk about that, Mike, because when you serve me a plate of food, I always think about when I met you at Seafood Revolution, you were always breaking down fish. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I was the fishmonger for Seafood Revolution, yes.
You were breaking it down for John Foles, Rick Tremano, and of course, Simon Brown. Hey, Simon, I know you're a big listener here.
Yeah.
But talk about the dedication and what it takes to take an ingredient from somewhere where there's something that originated here at Chase Farms or anywhere and turn it into something that you're proud of.
Oh man, it takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of care and pride. So, for example, on my page, I have a big picture of a salmon. This is a Loch Dort salmon. Thank you, Simon. That came all the way from Scotland. And it took 2 cutting boards for me to fillet this fish. And I got 2 of my longest knives, and it was still bigger than the knives put together. But the pride and care that I took to cut that fish, to skin it, and to portion it to the right size is very important, because I want to keep that consistency of that product. I want to make sure that the guest gets a proper product when it hits their plate. Okay. So that's the importance of what you just asked. I put a lot of pride into what I do, and I see you put a lot of pride into your peanuts from start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
So what do you think about, do you try to incorporate local ingredients?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Matter of fact, I have a farmer that I use in Fayetteville that I get a lot of my garnishes from and a lot of my herbs from that I use on my cooking. Yeah. So,
I always thought that was a pretty cool thing. It's when I see people who really eating is more than just good taste.
Mm-hmm.
Eating is part of who we are and everything. It's,
yes.
I don't know. I'm not really, you probably can find a much better way to describe it than I can.
I can describe it to you like this. With that farmer, I helped him process 11 meat chickens. Okay. And this first time ever doing this, from the cone to the tumbler to actually removing the innards. And I can tell you just the taste of that fresh chicken after it being processed is totally different from getting it from the store. Because, you don't know when the chickens in the store were being processed. You don't know how long they've been, if they sat in the freezer.
You're talking to a chicken farmer.
You don't know, right? But you know how long it's sat in the warehouse, and you don't know how long it's been sitting in the store. So I did a comparison. I got some fresh chicken from the store, and I got the chicken that I just processed. The cleanliness of that fresh chicken just is totally different. Totally different.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knowing where your food comes from is, and knowing about it, I think, is something that everybody wants to more and more and more, like, look at that label and see where exactly did this originate. So you guys both, there's a lot of similarities in the culinary world and in the farming world. What would you say, Donald, the hardest part of your job is?
We lay out a plan. Actually, our plan is probably 3 years because of our rotation. We're planning on what we're going to plant where and how we're going to do that and how to manage our soil test levels and all that. Just making sure that we get everything done at the right time, because if you're too late and you're not effective in what you're doing, or you're too early, and right now we're thinking a lot about peanut maturity. Peanut maturity affects flavor. It affects so many things about the peanut. And there's a science pace to it, but there's also an art. And with the fact that it's rained for the last 2 weeks, almost steady, it's got us a little concerned. That kind of concern, I think, is something that we all deal with. Is we face weather every day, and it's a constant challenge, and, you just hope you manage it the best you can.
Yeah. The weather, and that's the thing you actually can't change, right?
No.
What would you say the hardest part of your job is?
Pretty much along the line of the peanuts. It's good. It's the consistency. Can we get that same type of product that we got in yesterday? Can we get the same size fish? Can we get the same quality of vegetables? So that's the hardest part of our job. It's consistency and sticking to what we produced the previous day.
So, Donald, we got here at 9:30 this morning, and one of the questions that I had on the list of things I wanted to ask you is, what is a typical day in the life of a peanut farmer? Now, I realize you're an everything farmer that is tremendously peanut, but talk us through, what does a day in the life look like?
Well, for the most part, during the growing season, they don't require everyday management. They do. I mean, I might check my moisture sensors and see whether or not I need to irrigate. I get up at 4:30 every morning, got some chores to do at the chicken house and one thing or another. During some really busy times, it could be a little earlier. During harvest time, it will certainly be earlier, just because there's a lot of things we need to get done. And if I'm drying peanuts, I don't know, I might be getting up at 2:00 in the morning to make sure they don't get over dry or something like that. You got to do a little management. During the growing season, we're looking at things, but there's always something to do on a farm. There never is a time when there's just, I don't know what I'm going to do today.
I call those pecan limbs.
There's always something to do. So you try to go on, you try to maintain, this is a struggle for me to try to maintain a normal schedule, because something pops up and you say, I need to handle that. And you got to get some sleep at night. But it's a lot to try to manage. And I think all farmers are like this. Mm-hmm. Some farmers do better working early in the morning. Some farmers do better working till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In our line of business, there's no such thing as a normal schedule. There's no such thing. I put in 8-hour days, 18-hour days, not 8 hours, 18-hour days, working 7 days straight, opening up a restaurant. And it's not easy. You can get so tired that you get delirious. I know the true meaning of delirious. Wow. And what feeling delirious is like after working all those days.
You don't want to be cutting things when you're delirious.
Right? Oh, no. No.
It's a good time to wipe off tables.
Right.
Right. Don't do too much of that. So what would you say of your kind of your operation that you're doing? What would you say you're the most proud of? Like, what's the thing that gives you the most joy out of everything?
While we've been really successful in terms of yields and things, my greatest joy is the fact that I get to work with my parents. My dad's growing, I think this will be his 69th crop, because he tells people that. I hear him telling that. That's important to him. And my mother is actively involved, and, we're working together. We're normal people. We don't always see eye to eye, but I consider that to be a blessing. And I think that by and large, in my circle, farming is a family business still. Mm. There may be some really large farms that people would say, that's corporate agriculture, but it's at its heart, it's family, and it's family. And farming is not a simple punch a time clock. Nobody makes me get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm getting up because I've got something I want to get done that day.
Right.
But it's really family. And when you recognize that, it makes it a lot more meaningful, I believe.
I agree.
You'll go with that answer?
I'll go with that answer.
All right. Well, we'll be right back with the lightning round, where we're going to get to kind of stump these two guys and get a little bit further under the hood with what makes them tick. I want to take a quick break from today's interview to thank the family farmers in Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida who proudly grow the peanuts for your favorite jar of peanut butter. The peanut butter is such a versatile ingredient that chefs love, and we hope after today's episode you're inspired to love it even more. For more information about peanut butter, including culinary ideas, the history of peanut butter, and more, you can go to the Southern Peanut Growers website. That is at peanutbutterlovers.com. That's peanutbutterlovers.com. Loads of information on there. Check it out. All right, so we're going to go straight into the lightning round here. We'll start with you, Chef Mike. Biscuits or cornbread?
Biscuits. No, I'll take that back. Cornbread. Cornbread.
Cornbread. All right. In question 1A, do you put sugar in your cornbread?
No.
Okay. We can still be friends. How about you, Don?
Oh, biscuits.
Biscuits. We'll be closer friends. There's a right answer to some of these.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs. I don't have a dog at the moment, but I have a cat. He's annoying.
Do you have a favorite snack?
Yes. I like to take sliced turkey with cheese and French fries in the middle and roll it up.
So like a little taquito?
Yep. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any with you?
No.
Okay.
Are we talking guilty pleasure snacks?
Well, I was actually leaning towards, do you have a favorite candy bar with peanuts in it? But I don't know. Mike took me down a whole nother road.
Yeah. I'm being honest here.
Look, this is
Savory's good. No, and no corporate ties here, but the M&M's peanut butter are pretty awesome as a guilty pleasure snack.
What variety goes inside one of those?
If it's peanut butter, my suspicion is it's runner.
Runner.
Yeah.
We learned about all these varieties, and so I'm trying to figure out where they all go in
Right.
different things. Do you have a favorite beverage to unwind with after a long day?
Yes, I do. A Sazerac.
A Sazerac. Do you have a favorite bourbon or rye that goes in there?
Bullet rye.
Bullet rye. How about you, Donald?
Well, I typically, I might drink three things, one of them being chocolate milk, but it's typically a seltzer water.
I love the seltzer water. I thought you were going to go with coffee because your coffee service
Not
this
to
morning
unwind
was,
with.
Well, that's true. I guess you could have a decaf after a long day.
Well,
I still don't trust
possibility.
decaf because I feel like just the process is going to make me feel like I'm going to be awake. You know, I don't ever drink decaf. Just like a dog that won't bark. Why would you?
I will. I mean, maybe because it's still 80 degrees at 6 o'clock in the evening. Maybe this in the wintertime, that might be a much more go-to.
Well, if anybody's looking for a barista down this way, you should definitely search out Chase Farms and come get you.
That espresso was very delicious this morning.
It was incredible. Favorite cut of steak?
Oh, man. I've got two. All right. But if I was to put one over the other right now, it would be a ribeye. Certified Angus beef ribeye.
There you go.
That's hard to beat. Probably prime rib, though. Probably prime rib.
Thinking about Christmas dinner right now and thinking it's coming. I need to go ahead and get that in the freezer. So
Nice slice with some horseradish cream.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
all right, favorite barbecue. So you got brisket, pulled pork, ribs, or chicken.
Baby backs.
Baby backs.
Brisket.
Brisket.
I really thought the chicken farmer was going to go towards
Chicken barbecue has to be done right. And I'm sure that I've had some that's really good, but
it's hard to beat brisket.
there is a service station, I guess you would call it, just up the road here, a large service station that's noted for their brisket. And hey, it's not bad brisket for the side of I-75. But I mean, if you want really good brisket, you need to go a little farther west. Let's just put it like that.
Okay.
I hear you. Okay. If you couldn't live where you are, and I know, Mike, I haven't been to your house, but you're in Fayette County, Georgia. If you couldn't live there, where would you go? If we said, nope, you got to go somewhere else, pick a spot.
Oh, man. I would think I'll come Right down here. Chase Farms. No, but are we speaking like retirement or just like go?
Boom, right now.
Boom. Tomorrow?
We're putting you there.
Just give me a house with acre and a half of land. Just, yeah.
On the coast of France, or are you talking about?
No, right here in Georgia.
Okay. All right.
Right here in Georgia.
There you go.
You know, that way I can do my farming. I can raise my chickens. I can have my cat or my dog, you know, and my peanuts. Nice little row.
There you go.
Oh, man. You know, I've thought about this a lot. I love to travel. I like beach. I like mountains. I'd have a hard time leaving where I am now. I love the people. You get something under your fingernails and, man, you'd have to drag me kicking and screaming. Nothing against Fayetteville, but I mean, every time I drive to Atlanta, I'm like saying, when I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But I would have a hard time going anywhere. I really would. This is home, no matter where you travel home. It's always good to be back home.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe that's what keeps us here. I mean, for the, like most of my friends in the farming community, that's what keeps us. These are our homes. We're invested.
Yeah. I guess the next one would be, what's your favorite food memory from, it could be recent, it could be childhood, but what's
my favorite food memory is recent. I just went up to New York, Martha's Vineyard, and visited a restaurant called Vestry in Soho. This is my first Michelin star restaurant that I've ever been to in my entire career. Wow. I've always cooked the food, but never sat down and gotten the service. And I will never ever forget it. To get some salmon on a tempura seaweed chip, Wagyu beef, and to get an orange filled with a blood orange panna cotta. I'll never forget it. It was always be memorable.
I like it.
It's not exactly recent. It's been a few years, but we ate at a little restaurant in the Jewish section of Rome.
Mm.
And they had some of their artichokes that, were just phenomenal. And I don't even remember what I had, but it was one of my most pleasant meals. And maybe it's some of that's who you're with and everything you were with.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
One of the reasons I ask this is because I'm always looking for places to put on my list. So now I've got Rome and Martha's Vineyard. I'll check those boxes off. Y'all, we'll see in 2 weeks. All right. Speaking of dinner, if you could have dinner with any three people, living or dead, you just pick them up. They'll be here tonight to have dinner. Who would you invite over?
My father. It would be my father.
You got two more if you want them, Mike. Come on.
My mother and Rick Tremano.
Rick Tremano.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
That's a great one. See, Donald's getting it a little easier because he's already had time to marinate on the question. So
it's not getting any easier to answer.
Let's see how he does here.
I would probably say my kids.
You have how many?
3.
Okay, so I didn't know if he had 4 kids and he had to pick which 3.
Well, I'm having to kick my wife to the curb, but other than that, no, they would just be fun. I mean, they're brutally honest with me. You know.
There you go. All right, so we got a couple more and we'll be out of here. This is we're getting to the good stuff now. All right, so Mike, we talked last night about your wife, the psychiatrist.
Right.
I'm on the phone with her, calling her and saying, Mike has been arrested.
Oh, boy.
What does she think you did?
Oh, she probably thought I stole something. No, I mean, I probably just like maybe mouthed off to somebody, you know. I don't know. That's you stumped me on that one. You stumped me on that one. Yeah.
The best answer I ever was somebody said, probably that I threw the burrito back at the cashier for being taken too long or something.
Right.
That was the absolute best answer ever. All right, Donald.
Well, in this part of Georgia and further south, our roads are pretty wide. You can see what's coming. there's no necessity of running 55 miles an hour. So my wife would assume that I got picked up for running quite fast.
Oh.
Yeah. There's no question about it.
I've been on those roads and also seen the little black SUV kind of at the end that's just waiting on you.
Yeah.
And there are some notorious speed traps in southern Georgia. Notorious.
Yeah. Y'all be sure and write all those down on a map before I leave today so we can be
Enigma, Georgia.
Enigma.
Put that one down.
Yeah.
Enigma.
All right. 1 year from today, Mike, we're going to celebrate with a Sazerac. We're going to celebrate with the best seltzer water we can. What are we celebrating? What's 1 year from today? We look back and go, this thing we wanted happened.
My goal is 1 year from today to have 7 Myles Craft Dining in a brick and mortar. I want the service of the restaurant to be right there in Peachtree City, Fayetteville County area, because there's a demand for it there. People want a fine dining establishment to come to that area. So my goal is to have that restaurant open in one year.
I hope to be coming to his restaurant in 1 year. I'll tell you that. What he's been telling me sounds amazing, but no, I'd like to be celebrating my finishing up of peanut harvest. That would be pretty cool.
The crops in the barn.
The crops in the barn. That's always something that we celebrate. You know, when you're done, you get excited about that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for joining us on the podcast today, and for Donald for your hospitality, having us here and playing
Happy to have
barista,
y'all.
playing tour guide. We were picking peanuts. We did it all. I know it wasn't quite dry enough to actually drive the combine around in the field and get stuck, or we didn't want to get stuck or anything.
Right.
Have you gotten the combine stuck, by the way?
Oh, yes.
Is your plan to pull it out or just to wait?
Well, that self-propel has rear assist wheels, and my idea is you go into the wet spot without that engaged, and you put that on to get yourself back out. And so sometimes you just have to push just a little bit further, and sometimes you just push way too far.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's two trains of thought in the getting stuck. One is leave it, and one is what other equipment do we want to get stuck pulling it out?
Last year I remember it distinctly, we had a good week, but it also had rained a lot in the early part of September, and we had a spot there that it was just going to be too wet. And I recall finishing up harvest and looking to the west as the storm was coming in. Mm-hmm. And we had just gone back to these wet spots and tried to get them done. And we had succeeded. Wow. And as that shower was coming in, that's a satisfying feeling.
There we go. We're going to leave it right there. Thanks for listening, everybody.
You've been listening to the Eat Y'all podcast, hosted by Eat Y'all founder and chief relationship officer, Andy Chapman. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd join us in our mission to save family farms by subscribing and leaving a review. Even better, share this episode and follow us on your favorite social media account at Let's Eat Y'all.